Well, hello everybody. I am Sam if you do not know me, or maybe have not seen one of our previous teachings, but I have the exciting honor and privilege to bring tonight's lesson, which is in our Daniel series. So we're continuing on with that tonight, and tonight's lesson is titled No Drama Llama. and it's very applicable because I'm sure we all have drama that comes up in our lives and different events and moments. I can't think of one specific story, but as a 22-year-old, I've been through a lot of different drama and scenarios throughout my years of growing up, whether it was something super simple on the playground as an elementary school kid or something that drug itself out over a couple weeks in high school. No matter, it's something that we all face. But just some rhetorical questions on that is why do you think we struggle so much when it comes to how to handle drama? Or would you say that you handle drama well? You know, are you on the other side of things and you're like, I'm perfect with it, I'm great, I know what I'm doing, like come out the other side good? Or would you say that you're the one that tends to make things worse, or when you get involved? Or maybe you're always the one that's involved, always somehow finding yourself at the center of these tense situations. But then again, do you even feel equipped to handle the drama that comes at you? You know, for example, let's kind of put a scenario out there. So let's say a friend of yours just comes running up to you and says that, I don't know, we'll call this person Braden, you did a project together and didn't get a good grade, and now Braden's super upset and is saying that he wants to fight you after school. And now you're entering this whole thing and this whole deal, and it's like someone else is telling you about it, but then this person that started it and said something else isn't even telling you, it's someone else, and it just becomes this whole thing. What would you do? How would you handle that? What's your reactionary response to that? So just think about that, because I'm sure we could all have mixed responses and answers. But tonight, as we are continuing our Daniel series, we are going to look at a tense situation that came up in his life. And the example that this puts for us is one that can be very applicable to our lives as we think about the drama that we face, the drama that we might currently be in, or what will come up in our lives. But we first have to remember just kind of a reminder of where we are in this. And so we know that Daniel and his friends are in Babylon. They were taken there by King Nebuchadnezzar from their homeland. And we also know and remember that Daniel was pretty smart and of a good, solid character. And so because of that, he had gone through this 3-year training in Babylon that would eventually allow him to enter the courts and kind of become a wise man of the area and influencer, kind of speak with the king about different things. So keeping that all in mind, we're going to jump into our reading tonight, which is in Daniel. It is chapter 2. It's a little bit more of a reading, but it's verses 1 through 23. So it says, one night during the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had such disturbing dreams that he couldn't sleep. He called in his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, and he demanded that they tell him what he had dreamed. As they stood before the king, he said, I have had a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, Long live the king, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means. But the king said to the astrologers, I'm serious about this. If you don't tell me what my dream was and what it means, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. But if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. They said again, Please, your majesty, tell us the dream and we will tell you what it means. The king replied, I know what you're doing. You're stalling for time because you know I am serious when I say if you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means. The astrologers replied to the king, "No one on earth can tell the king his dream, and no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician, enchanter, or astrologer. The king's demand is impossible. No one except the gods can tell you your dream, and they do not live here among the people." The king was furious when he heard this, and he ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be executed. And because of the king's decree, men were sent to find and kill Daniel and his friends. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, "Why has the king issued such a harsh decree?" So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went at once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. That night, the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. He said, "Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power. He controls the course of world events. He removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness. Though he is surrounded by light, I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what we asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded." Now there was a lot there to unpack. That was a bit of a lengthy chunk of story, but there are quite a few things that we can pull from that. But you know what we see here is that the king was so desperate for answers that he wants to kill all these guys off, and it included Daniel. And I mean, I, for one, as I said earlier, have faced, different drama, but I've never had anyone want to kill me. And so this is a very tense situation that Daniel has up against him. But let's step back real quick and kind of just unpack what brought Nebuchadnezzar and kind of started this whole ball of drama rolling. And so King Nebuchadnezzar, we know he wakes up from this super crazy dream. And as verse 1 puts it, it said he had such a disturbing dream that he couldn't sleep. And I know for me, I have had disturbing dreams, but most of the time, we can usually fall back to sleep or maybe in another hour or so. But Nebuchadnezzar was just so riled up by this dream, so caught off guard, whatever you want to call it, that he couldn't sleep. He was, anxious, worried, whatever. So he calls in his wise council, all those astrologers and enchanters, as they were listed. But we can just feel that desperation. He's bringing in everybody that he can to get an answer here. And so, they come in and they see if, he sees if they can come up with a solution. However, we see that the wise guys do not have a solution. And this just brings it all to a boiling point, because all King Nebuchadnezzar wants is some answers. And because he's not getting them, he wants everybody dead, which included Daniel and his friends. So now we see this drama. We see what's going on. We see this huge issue that is facing us. And we see in this story, as we're going to unpack here, two different ways that things were handled, and which was the correct response and which was not so correct response. And then, we can take those and hopefully apply, learning from the not so right response to handling this, and, taking that into also, not do the same, but then also learning from the good example or the right response, and taking that into our own lives and applying it for handling these situations. But a wrong response comes from the wise men, of all people. We're calling them the wise men, and yet they might not have been so wise in this situation, as we see. Because in verse 7, They said again, "Please, your majesty, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means." The king replied, "I know what you're doing. You're stalling for time because you know I'm serious when I say, if you don't tell me the dream, you're doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means." Obviously, we see that the wise men did not know how to answer the king's dream. They didn't even have an answer when they came in, but rather than being upfront and honest and speaking on what they did know, which was that they didn't know anything, they chose to stall and protect themselves. They were thinking of their own interest and their own selves, and can't maybe fully blame them because they did have a death sentence on them. However, that doesn't make them not wanting to handle the situation the correct way right. Because how many of us, when we're in the midst of a tough situation like these wise guys, how many of us have been like them and done what we think is best for us? Not best for the situation, but for what we thought was best. And obviously we see that this plan to cover their own behinds, as we'll say, did not work out. And that's just something that to take and apply and remember, is that what we think might be best for us, what we think might be best for us in the situation and maybe getting us out of it, might just make things worse, might prolong the issue at hand, rather than reaching a resolution. And so we want to not be like the wise men and just stall or cover up or say what we want the person to say, but actually speaking the truth and speaking honestly and openly. Because what we saw happened is the wise men, kind of did their thing and they were ordered to be killed. So obviously that didn't work out. But that brings us to our main idea for the night, which is to properly handle a situation, you need to use wisdom and discretion. And as we saw, this was something that the wise men did not follow. However, someone or someones in this story did. And that was Daniel. And he provides us with the right example, the correct example, the good example for how to kind of step into these tough situations or drama. And so, as we saw back in verse 13, it says, "And because of the king's decree, men were sent to find and kill Daniel and his friends. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, 'Why has the king issued such a harsh decree?' So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went at once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret so they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon." If you didn't pick up on it, verse 14 is where the main idea for tonight comes from. Because in there it said that Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion, which is, like we said, to properly handle a situation, you need to use wisdom and discretion. And we saw that the commander of the king's guard literally shows up to kill Daniel and his friends. Like, he's on his way. He's like, this is what we got to do. This is what's going to happen. And, kind of maybe putting it into our own terms, let's, imagine that this big, buff, jacked dude shows up to you and your friends hanging out at, someplace. You're hanging out, and he shows up and wants to punch your faces in, and you don't even know what's going on. He's just there to start, beating you up. And, what would you do? Personally, I know I would be freaking out, trying to run as quickly as I can, or maybe trying to get in my car since I can drive. I don't know. But I probably would not have handled it like Daniel did, where he just simply asked, what's going on? He was calm, he was patient, he was tactful, because he, as it says, used wisdom and discretion. He entered the situation already wanting to find resolution, or kind of at least hopefully reach a positive conclusion rather than stalling or kind of holding off or not, answering correctly like the wise men did. And so, and along with that, so, he finds out what's going on, and then he goes directly to the source of the issue, which was King Nebuchadnezzar, which is another bold move because he's literally going to the guy that ordered him to be killed. So there's just an example of boldness for us, in that he, if Daniel can walk up to the guy that ordered him to be killed about, to discuss what's going on, why can't we, head to the person that might have started the drama that brought us in, or go to the person on the other side of it and just have a simple discussion, an open discussion about what's going on to reach a positive resolution. Yet somehow we lose our boldness, or we think we're being bold, and we hide behind a text message or a tweet or an Instagram story or Instagram caption on a beautiful picture of a tree outside. Whatever it may be, we tend to find ourselves thinking that we're being bold and handling the situation in the correct way, in the right way, and this is how it needs to be done. And in fact, we are entirely wrong. We are just dancing around stalling, basically, as the wise men did, and only prolonging an issue that needs to be and could be handled like Daniel did, and just going directly to the person. Now, maybe it is texting the person, because you might not be able to just talk to them straight away, but however, you're going directly to them and you're having an open dialogue and unpacking what's going on. And then along with that, we also just see Daniel's example of open honesty, even when we're stepping into this, these stressful situations, because he also, in going to the king, he did not have an answer at the time, and he still went, but he didn't lie, he didn't speak about what he didn't know, he didn't try to cover that up. He spoke of what he did know, which was that he didn't have an answer, but he asked for that. And sometimes, it's just another example of being, of having that open, honest discussion with whatever's going on. But also just speaking of not causing a greater divide, there's one last part in this that we kind of just need to unpack real quickly of Daniel's example. And in is verse 17, bringing that up again. It's, then Daniel went home and told his friends. So he's finished talking with the king, and it's like, okay, now we need to come up with an answer, figure out the answer. So then Daniel went home and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, what had happened. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. You see, this is something we often forget as well, is we, when drama might come up in our lives, we tend to tell it to people that don't necessarily need to be involved or don't need to know, or bringing people into a situation that doesn't involve them and shouldn't involve them. We speak about it so much that we almost expect it to be featured as the next top story on national news. Breaking news flashes across the screen, and there's your drama or tough situation listed out on screen. But that's not how it's supposed to be. That's not how it's supposed to work. And it's, kind of pulling back that main idea of how we're supposed to be using wisdom and discretion. And with discretion, that means only involving people that need to be involved. And when we say only involving people that need to be involved, for Daniel, it was his close, trustworthy friends. It wasn't Bob from down the street or someone from third period. It was people that he knew were solid and could provide, good advice, but could also provide prayer and going to God for this. So not saying that you can't involve people in your drama, but there's a correct way of involving them where they are helping you through it, helping you come to a positive conclusion, but they're trustworthy, they're confidential, They're not just everybody, again, on your social media where, just posting a subtweet, as they say, calling someone out without calling them out. We're only involving the people that need to be involved and need to be talked to. And that can be, like in Daniel's case, a trustworthy friend or friends. It can be a leader, like your small group leader. It can be a pastor. It can be a parent, a teacher, anybody that is trustworthy and can provide solid counsel and advice. But that means we shouldn't be going and spreading our drama everywhere just because it might make us feel good. We're using discretion with that. And so in the end of this story, we ended up seeing a positive resolution. Because we saw in verse 19 that night the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. And then Daniel praised the God of heaven, and he said, "Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power." And we see resolution, we see an answer to the conflict. And Daniel took the time to praise God because, again, sometimes, we just spoke on the fact of bringing in our trustworthy friends or close, leader or something, and yet sometimes we even forget to bring God in. And it might seem, that a situation of drama, like, oh, I shouldn't involve God, but God knows what's going on. He knows everything that's going on. And so to not involve him would not be good. We should be going to him in prayer when these situations arise and asking for his advice and, having other people pray about it, as Daniel and his friends did here, knowing that he would provide the ultimate clarity to a situation or has our best interest in mind when it comes to these kinds of situations. But even remembering, like Daniel and his friends did, to then thank God and praise God, if we do reach that positive resolution, and anyway, just thanking and praising God, because just as it said in the verse, it says, "Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power." He has our best interest in mind, especially even in dramatic or tough situations that come up for us. So in the days ahead, or maybe even when you leave here, because you might have come in already in the midst of some drama going on in your life. But what drama needs resolution? What tough situations do you need to step into with a boldness like Daniel and not stalling like the wise men? What tension needs your attention? Just remember this example of Daniel and his the way that he stepped into it, and that we saw a positive resolution because he took the boldness and the step and was calm and patient and tactful. So in these days ahead, just remember his example, or even when you leave here, remember his example to handle the drama and tough situations that come up in your life, because we want no drama llama. I don't know, maybe that makes sense, but anyway, it was the title. So with that, I will see you guys another time.